So with a potential Trump indictment looming, it's getting a little difficult to keep track of all of the different cases that Trump is involved in. Which happens when you're the former president who potentially committed multiple crimes. But hey, fear not, I got you. Elie Honig, a former federal prosecutor for the SDNY and one of my personal favorite legal analysts, appeared on CNN to give a wonderful breakdown of all of the Trump cases and the details surrounding each of those cases. Give it a listen.
CNN's senior legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elie Honig is here to break it down. Elie, I'm so glad that you're here to talk about this because this is right up your alley. You have taught, you know about this because you're a former federal prosecutor, but you have taught this sort of prosecution, what is these RICO and conspiracy and racketeering. That's what you do.
Yes, classes in session. You ready?
Classes in session.
Okay,
yeah.
Here's why your reporting, Don, is so important. When we're thinking about how a case could be charged, you're always going to start with your base level crimes. And here it appears the DA is looking at potential election interference and election fraud. Now, you reported they're considering conspiracy. That's a loaded word, but all it really means is an agreement, a meeting of the minds between two or more people to commit a crime. And then if you go up to racketeering, now this is a really powerful tool that prosecutors use. What you have to do is show two things. First of all, the existence of what we call a racketeering enterprise. That can be a mafia family, that can be a drug trafficking organization, but it can also be a corporation or a political entity. And then you have to show that they engage in what we call a pattern of racketeering activity, meaning that they committed two or more crimes in an organized fashion, which brings us to this other new piece of information. There's a third phone call. We already know about, of course, the infamous phone call to Brad Raffensperger. I just want to find 11,780 votes. There's also a public recording of Donald Trump talking to this investigator, Frances Watson, when he tells her, when the right answer comes out, you'll be praised. Now we know Trump also called the former Georgia Speaker of the House, asking him to convene a special session. Now, Don, as we know, we've heard from some of the grand jurors, special grand jurors who've come out. They've told us that they've recommended indictments for more than a dozen people. Now, Fani Willis, though, will ultimately get the decision. That special grand jury cannot indict. If she wants to indict, she will have to take the case to a regular grand jury. Now, when's that going to happen? The DA told a judge 55 days ago that her decision was imminent. 55 days, so I guess imminence is in the eye of the beholder.
This is already a grand jury that's already sitting is who would actually see this.
Yeah, grand juries sit every 2 months, so she can start whenever she wants.
And I think we need to look. I just want to be clear about this. They're not naming the former president, but you heard the jurors who came out who said this will be massive, and that is leading people to believe that it is a former president. But again, not for sure.
They're certainly suggesting, but correct. They've not named.
Okay. I want to turn to Manhattan now because I also have some reporting on that. But this possible indictment, and then the former president is saying, oh, it's going to happen on Tuesday. And they're saying the reason he's saying that is because he's saying that it was leaks in the office. I'm not saying that specifically, but because of leaks in Bragg's office. So walk us through if this does happen. We don't know if it's going to happen. If it does happen, they're thinking it's going to possibly be Wednesday if it does happen. Walk us through potential criminal charges and what happens in Manhattan if this does happen.
So, of course, this brings us back to 2016 when Donald Trump paid $130,000 in hush money to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Those payments went through Michael Cohen. Now, making a hush money payment is not necessarily a crime on its own. What could be criminal here? And we're in New York state law here. First of all, falsification of business records. If they falsely log these payments as attorney fees, that's just a misdemeanor, though, Don. No one realistically goes to prison on that kind of misdemeanor. However, if the prosecutors can show that that falsification of business records happened in order to promote some other crime, and here that would be a campaign finance violation, then we're looking at a felony. Now, it's a Class E felony. That's the lowest level. There's A through E. There is no F. That would be a maximum of 4 years in prison. But in Class E felonies, nonviolent, it's quite common for people to not get sent to prison at all. And, of course, the big development today is there will be testimony in the grand jury, as Kara just reported, from Robert Costello. This is very unusual to have someone go into a grand jury and present evidence on behalf of a potential defendant. And so he, it appears, will try to undermine the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen.
Yeah. And let's be clear. Most likely he would enter through an underground. You won't see him going in.
There are all manner of tunnels and back entrances
and no
down
handcuffs or whatever, but he will have his mugshot and he will be fingerprinted.
Donald Trump, yes, anyone who gets arrested gets fingerprinted and gets a mugshot. Yeah.
Again, if this does happen. And then we also have the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit that is playing out as well. If you want to just do that.
Well, at the same time, next month, there's a civil lawsuit. This is not a criminal case, but also downtown, just across the street in federal court, E. Jean Carroll has sued Donald Trump for defamation. Remember, E. Jean Carroll alleged Donald Trump raped her in a Manhattan department store. Trump denied it. called her a liar. She has now sued him for defamation. So that will be going to trial in front of a judge, Lewis Kaplan, who I've been in front of many times. He's a tough judge. He's a smart judge. He does not countenance fools. So that will be interesting. Happens next month.
We will be covering it. Thank you, Elie Honig. Appreciate it.